You flipped over a log once, maybe as a kid, maybe last week while gardening, and a dark segmented creature curled into a tight spiral and just sat there, frozen, waiting for you to leave. Your first instinct was probably disgust. Your second instinct was probably your shoe. Almost nobody pauses in that moment to ask what they actually just found, because the answer would change how they feel about every patch of damp soil in their yard. That creature is a millipede, and it is not a pest. It is not poisonous in any way that matters to you. It has no interest in your plants, your house, or your skin. What it is doing under that log, hour after hour, day after day, is one of the most important and least appreciated jobs in the entire garden, and almost nobody who has ever stepped on one knew that. It has been doing this same job, in roughly this same way, for longer than almost any other creature alive on land today, and once you understand what it's actually for, you may never reach for your shoe again. Let's start with what people think they know, because most of it is wrong. The word millipede means 1,000 feet, and that name alone has done a lot of damage to the species' reputation. People assume something with that many legs must be venomous, aggressive, or at minimum, destructive to crops. Gardeners who find millipedes near a wilted seedling often blame them on sight, assume they chewed through the stem, and start reaching for pesticide. It feels logical. A many-legged creature near dead plant matter looks guilty. If you're enjoying this so far, hit the like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I actually read them. Here is the problem with that assumption. Millipedes are almost entirely detritivores, meaning they eat dead and decaying organic material, not living plant tissue. A 1958 study by entomologist S.L. Tuckson, later expanded by researchers at the University of Georgia in the 1970s, examined gut contents of common garden millipede species and found that the overwhelming majority of their diet consisted of decomposing leaf litter, rotting wood, and fungal material already breaking down in the soil. The seedling a gardener found chewed was almost never millipede damage at all. It was usually slugs, cutworms, or root maggots, with the millipedes simply present at the scene, feeding on the rot that followed. That distinction matters more than it sounds like it should. Millipedes occasionally do take a small bite of soft, already damaged plant tissue, which is exactly why they get blamed for damage they didn't start. They are scavengers, drawn to weakness, not predators that create it. Researchers studying soil arthropods in temperate forests have found that a single millipede can process several times its body weight in decaying plant matter over the course of a season, breaking it down into smaller fragments that bacteria and fungi can then finish converting into usable soil nutrients. Compare that to an earthworm for a moment. Since the two are constantly confused in casual garden conversation, earthworms pull organic matter down into the soil and mix it with mineral particles, which is its own valuable process. Millipedes work the layer above that, the loose litter sitting on the surface, the part most gardeners rake away without thinking twice. The two animals are doing different stages of the same larger job, and removing either one slows the whole system down. A garden bed with worms but no surface decomposers still ends up with a thick, undigested mat of old leaves sitting untouched on top, simply because nothing is breaking it down small enough for the worms to use in the first place. That's the part almost nobody tells you. Millipedes are not just cleaning up. They are running the first stage of an entire underground recycling system. Without organisms breaking large dead material into smaller pieces, the bacteria and fungi responsible for true decomposition would have almost nothing to work with. Fallen leaves are too large, too tough, too intact for microbes alone to digest efficiently. Millipedes shred them, literally, mechanically, with mouthparts built for exactly that purpose. The smaller the fragment, the more surface area is exposed to fungal and bacterial breakdown, and the faster that material turns into the dark, nutrient-dense soil every gardener is trying to build. This is where the story gets genuinely strange. Soil scientists studying forest floor ecosystems have documented that areas with healthy millipede populations decompose leaf litter significantly faster than areas where millipedes have been removed or suppressed by chemical treatment. One long-term study tracking decomposition rates in deciduous woodland found that leaf litter could take close to twice as long to break down when soil arthropod activity millipedes included, was experimentally reduced. The garden you're standing in right now is being built, slowly, by creatures most people have spent their entire lives trying to kill. If this is making you think, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. This channel only exists because of the people who share these videos, and I don't take that lightly. Now for the part of the story that complicates things, because millipedes are not universally harmless, and pretending otherwise would be its own kind of myth. Some species, particularly certain tropical and invasive millipedes, can occur in extremely high densities and damage seedling roots when given the chance, especially in greenhouse conditions or disturbed soil with limited alternative food sources. Entomologists at agricultural extension offices in the southeastern United States have documented localized cases where millipede populations spiked enough to genuinely harm young transplants. The defensive secretion millipedes release when threatened, a compound containing benzoquinones, can also irritate skin or eyes if handled carelessly, and in a few documented cases cause temporary discoloration on human skin. They are not aggressive, they are not seeking you out, but they are not nothing either. The deeper truth sits underneath that complication. The benzoquinone defense that occasionally irritates a curious child's hand is the same chemical system that makes millipedes almost untouchable to most would-be predators, which is exactly why they're allowed to sit in one place, undisturbed, for the months it takes to fully process a season's worth of leaf fall. A fast-moving, constantly fleeing decomposer would never get the job done. Millipedes can afford to be slow because almost nothing wants to eat them, and that slowness is precisely what makes them effective. Speed and defense aren't separate traits here. One built the other, and together they explain why millipede populations have remained one of the most stable, ancient lineages of land animal on Earth, with fossil evidence placing early millipede ancestors among the very first creatures to ever walk on dry land, predating even the first land vertebrates by tens of millions of years. Fossils discovered on the Scottish island of Carrara, dated to roughly 425 million years ago, show millipede-like creatures already living on land, while most other animal life was still confined to the ocean. Think about what that means for a moment. The plants those early millipedes were breaking down were among the first plants ever to grow on dry land at all. The relationship between a decomposer and a rotting leaf is not a recent arrangement humans happen to notice. It is one of the oldest continuous partnerships in the history of life on this planet, and it has been running, mostly unnoticed, in your backyard the entire time. Sit with that for a second. The animal curling defensively under your boot is doing a job whose ancestors were already doing it before anything with a backbone had ever left the ocean. So what do you actually do with a millipede in your garden? Leave it where it is. If you find one in soil, mulch, or under a log, that's a sign your garden has organic matter actively decomposing, which is exactly what healthy soil needs. Avoid broad-spectrum pesticides in mulched beds, since they kill millipedes and the predatory insects that would otherwise keep harmful pests in check, without distinguishing between the two. If you're growing seedlings in a greenhouse or raised bed and notice unusually high millipede numbers, that usually points to excess moisture or an overload of decaying material, rather than the millipedes themselves being the root problem, and adjusting watering and mulch depth typically resolves it without chemicals. Keep a layer of fallen leaves or mulch in at least part of your yard, rather than clearing every surface to bare soil, because that layer is the habitat where this entire underground process happens. If you do need to move one, a gloved hand or a piece of cardboard is enough. There's no reason to crush it, and given how slowly millipedes reproduce, with many species taking a full year or more to reach maturity and laying far fewer eggs than insects people consider beneficial, a single squashed millipede represents a meaningful loss to the small local population working that patch of soil. Composting setups benefit from them directly too. Gardeners who deliberately introduce millipedes, along with woodlice and other surface decomposers, into compost bins often report faster breakdown of woody or fibrous material that worms alone struggle to process. The next time you turn over a log or shift a pile of mulch and see that dark, segmented body curl into a spiral, you'll know what you're actually looking at. Not a pest, not a threat. A small, ancient machine that has been quietly building soil since before there was anything with legs to walk on it, working in the dark, asking nothing from you except to be left alone. Thank you for watching until the end. If this changed how you see something, check out the videos on screen. I think they will hit the same way. And subscribe if you haven't. See you in the next one.